Good morning. We are coming to the end of the Gospel of Luke. We're in our series. We did Mark in the first part of the year, and now we're finishing up Luke. We're going to go into Matthew in a few more weeks, and then into John, because we just want to keep feeding ourselves, feeding our spirits and our souls with the story of Jesus. And as we close out the book of Luke and get to what's sometimes called the Passion narrative, his arrest, his trial, his crucifixion, I want us to really sit at the teacher's feet still. Jesus was a rabbi. He taught. He used his words. And even in his last moments, especially in his last moments, his words were powerful. They were meaningful, and they're recorded for us in this book. Not just because Jesus said them, but because it benefits us. Those words, as Jesus says, are spirit and life. The words Jesus speaks fill us with his wisdom, but more than that, his very essence, his very character. That as the perfect embodiment of the Son of God, his words draw us nearer to becoming sons and daughters of God ourselves, as we were created to be originally. And again, as we look at the last words Jesus spoke on this earth, they are powerful. So let's turn to Luke chapter 22, starting in verse 39. Then Jesus went out and made his way, as he customarily did, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. When he came to the place, he said to them, "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." He went away from them about a stone's throw, knelt down, and prayed. It should be no surprise to us that the very last moments of Jesus' life, here on this earth before he was arrested and then crucified, he spends in prayer. He spends in solitude to commune with his Father in prayer, away from the busyness of life. The Mount of Olives was on a hillside east of Jerusalem, and Jerusalem itself is built on the hill. Mount Zion, Mount of Olives. Mount of Olives is actually a little bit taller at its peak, but Jesus had to go down and then back up with his disciples following him over rugged terrain, so it was a good little hike. And Jesus wants to be alone with his Father. Jesus wants to speak to his Father, and we might be prone to pray whenever we get a chance. I drive and pray sometimes. I might take a walk and pray. I might pray in bed even. And it's been known to happen that I'll fall asleep before saying amen. And I think that's okay. We're told by Paul in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 to pray without ceasing. So if I'm doing that, then I don't put restrictions on when I can pray and when I can't pray. And that's the way it should be. But let's not neglect the importance of making a space, making a time where we're not interrupted. We turn off our phone, get rid of the distractions, and maybe go out into a solitary place, find our own little hill outside of city busy life. Even the town of Winnsboro, small town as it is, can get kind of busy and hectic. Find a place. Find a closet. Find a hill, find a tree, find an alone space where you can, do what Jesus did. It says he knelt down and prayed. Again, I think I can pray in any position, and I think I can talk to God at all times. His door is kind of always open to me. But I need to remember who I am, and I need to remember who God is. And the best way to do that is to find time and kneel. Get down on my knees. Acknowledge that I am below and he is above. And I'll say, when I have knelt down to pray, it's a little bit harder to get distracted. I don't fall asleep when I'm kneeling down on my knees. I don't just pop right back up and answer the phone. I'm in being intentional about my posture of prayer and my place of prayer if I kneel down. And I think it's a practice it's good to follow. And you can pray in any position, in any place, in any activity, in any moment, to pray without ceasing. But if you want to bare your heart and your soul to God, which is what Jesus is wanting to do, stop. Check out of whatever you're in. Go somewhere by yourself. And his friends weren't that far away, and he encourages them to pray too, that they might not fall into temptation. Judas himself has already fallen into temptation. And he doesn't want them to fall asleep, which they will succumb to their sleepiness. All the while, Jesus just wants to be with his Father. He needs his disciples, his friends close by. But he needs his Father more. He went away from them about a stone's throw, knelt down and prayed. Listen to these words. And picture in your mind Jesus kneeling down. Father, if you are willing, take this cup away from me. Yet, not my will, but yours be done. I want to read that again. And these are some of Jesus' final words. He's more to say, but it's coming to a crux. It's coming to its fulfillment. The soldiers are marching on their way, and I think Jesus knew that. He knew what was literally coming in that moment. And this is his prayer. Father, if you are willing, take this cup away from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done. Then an angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. This is a moment when Jesus needs support and strength. And in his anguish, he prayed more earnestly. And his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. And he's repeating this phrase. He goes and he prays, and Matthew gives us the picture of going back and forth, checking on his disciples, going back to pray. And the intensity here of the sweat drops of blood. Again, listen to his words. Know that they are spoken in anguish, and that he is bearing his humanity to his Father. He's fully God, but he is fully human, and his humanity is shining through, not in a pretty way here, but in an authentic way. And he says, Father, if you are willing, take this cup away from me. Yet, not my will, but yours be done. When he got up from the prayer, verse 45, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, exhausted from grief. So he said to them, why are you sleeping? Get up and pray that you will not fall into temptation. Something he's already told them. While he was still speaking, suddenly a crowd appeared. So again, they were on their way. And the man named Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He walked up to Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said to him, Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss? And he's arrested and taken before Pilate, and taken before King Herod, and taken before Pilate again, put on trial, beaten, and eventually crucified as a common upstart, a rebeller against the Roman Empire, someone claiming to be king. And all they're doing is putting words in his mouth, trying to find a reason, his own people and his own friend Judas. It's a beautiful moment in the garden whenever Jesus is comforted by the angel, strengthened by the angel. And that is said in such stark contrast to the moment when Judas walks up with a kiss, a comfort, a greeting, common greeting of the day, a sign of closeness, And yet, it's a kiss of betrayal. It's Judas turning Jesus over, and Jesus gets his answer. He knew all along, I believe, but he gets his answer for maybe the most fervent prayer he ever prayed, and it was a no. This is the cup you will have to drink. And Jesus, his earthly human body, wanted some other possible outcome. But he was willing to take the outcome God gave. And God gave him this cup of wrath, this cup of anguish, this cup of brutality and torture, this cup of death, in essence, to drink. And Jesus drank it to the glory of his Father and for his love for all of the lost who needed his salvation. Father, if you are willing, take this cup away from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. Now, I've heard this phrase, if you are willing, in quite a few prayers. I've said it probably quite a few times myself, and I have to catch myself doing it because often when I pray this way, or maybe hear other people praying this way, it can be a little bit haphazardly, insincere, unmeaning. Oh, there's someone, that we kind of know, or we know they're family connected, and this person's cousins, whatever, and they need your help, God, and if you're willing, make them better. And we move on to the next part of our prayer request list. Now, I'm not saying that prayer is wasted, and I'm saying it's wrong to say if you're willing, but to say if you're willing in that moment's a lot different than what Jesus said if you're willing in this moment. And sometimes I've heard, and again, probably been guilty myself, of even using this line to excuse God's inaction. Then I say, God, if you're willing, heal them. And maybe what I really mean, even if I don't want to admit it, is, God, I don't really think you're going to do anything. I know you can, but odds are you won't, so here's this out for you, God. I'm giving you permission not to answer my prayer. God doesn't need that. I think we can bare ourselves to God and plead with Him and ask Him to heal someone without putting any conditions on it or caveats. God doesn't need that. We can be honest. And if you are willing to say it like that, to use it lightly and apathetically, that takes away from the beauty of when Jesus did it. And I came to appreciate more, at least, the way that Jesus prayed it way back in 1997. I was a senior in high school, and I was at one act play practice my senior year. We were on our way to regionals, and I was having fun with my friends, and we were having a good time, and get the call, my brother's been in an accident. He was jogging on the side of the road in a car, sun in their eyes, they couldn't see, hit him. He was in the hospital in Abilene, so we got in the car. One of our close family friends drove us 90 miles an hour the whole way out to Abilene, and got there, and it was dire. And, his body was hooked up to every hose and cable and thing you can imagine. And the doctors explained to my mother and myself and my brother, who got there as well. He came from a different direction because he was newly married with a new job in Childress, Texas. But we were all there, and the doctor was explaining to us that his body was badly messed up, but his biggest concern was his head. He had had a massive head injury, and there was swelling in the brain. And that swelling was intense, even to the point that the pressure inside of his head was rising and in danger of getting higher than his blood pressure. And if the blood can't get into the brain, then the brain dies. And I prayed. Oh, I prayed. And I didn't pray with any caveats or apathy. I said, please, 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 God, help him, help my brother. Save him, don't let him die. Help him to get better. Help his mind and his brain to heal. And I prayed it again and again, and I didn't have sweat drops of blood, but maybe I felt like I was on the verge of something that intense. And I know my mother was, and so many others, and we had people praying all over for him. Fervent prayers. Passionate prayers. And my prayers were probably as passionate as they had ever been up to that point in my life. As fervent as I knew to make them, as fervent as, and I didn't even know what to say, but my heart was breaking within me. And I prayed, and all the while those numbers kept going up, the numbers monitoring the pressure inside of his head. And the doctor said, well, if this number is and below, not great, but it's okay. If it goes past this number for any amount of time, there's going to be significant damage, maybe even damage you can't come back from. And the number just went right up to it, kept going up. And as I saw that number keep climbing, I was confronted with the fact that maybe my prayer wasn't going to be answered in the way I wanted. And at some point, I transitioned to this yet. I said, please, Father, please heal, help, change, alter the trajectory of where we're headed right now. And I didn't want to, but eventually I had to say, yet. And there's where the if came in. If you're not willing, if it's not going to happen, okay. And my brother did end up passing away. He had zero brain activity by the next day when doctors did a brain scan, and they advised us as a family that the really only course of action would be to proverbially pull the plug. To take him off life support, the only thing keeping him alive, because his mind, his brain was gone and wasn't coming back. And at that point even, it was such a hard decision to make, because well, God can do anything, and he can still do it. But at some point, you got to stop fighting that inevitability and realize that the prayer might not be answered in the way you wanted. I don't know what your yet moment was for you, or if you've had it yet. And I say, if you haven't had a moment where you pray as hard as you've ever prayed in your life, and yet you're confronted with a strong possibility that God's not going to answer your prayer the way you want him to answer it, it will come. It will come someday. And it is hard. It is a moment of profound grief and anxiety and earnestness, like verse 44 tells us. And Jesus is far more than whatever we would experience, than I experienced in that moment or any other person experiences in their moments. That Jesus, I believe, was even more intense. There was so much more on the line even at this moment, in ways that I can't even understand. But he still says these beautiful words, poured out of his heart in complete sincerity. Father, if you are willing, take this cup away from me. I don't want it any other way. Yet, not my will, yours. Even in our moments of deepest grief and heartache and trouble and despair, there can be moments of profound faith. But we're still committed to our God even in that moment. And we can share this meaningful prayer with Jesus himself, knowing that God did not answer his prayer the way he wanted. It's probably okay if he doesn't answer mine the way I want. And even in that moment, when I don't get that answer I so fervently want, I'm not alone. Jesus is with me. And I'm not abandoned by God. He hasn't turned his back on me. He simply, for reasons I cannot understand, said no. And the only thing left for me to do is, well, are you still going to trust me, Colby? Jesus trusted him. Jesus still trusted his Father and was faithful to his Father and unwavering in his commitment to his Father's plans. I can be too. I can follow in the footsteps of my Lord and pray his prayer and come out on the other side. And here I sit over 20 years later since my brother died that night. And it's still hard. Doesn't go away. Doesn't become easy. There's a lot of things I missed in the past 20 years I wish he would have been there for. Or I would have been there with him for. And I still have to remind myself, not my will, not my decision, not in my hands. It's in yours. It's in yours, God, and I'll trust it. Let's pray together. Dear Father, there are so many in this church that have had or will have, or Father, are even having in these moments, in these days, in this year, and in this time, a moment of profound heartache and trouble and anxiety and grief and unsurety and doubt. Father, help us to find comfort in Jesus and help us to find comfort in each other. And Father, help us to be faithful, even as we don't understand. And we won't understand tomorrow, probably either the day after that, or who knows. You haven't asked us to understand. You've asked us to be faithful. Help us to be faithful and to accept a will that is bigger and broader than ours. Yours, Father. Help us to accept that your decisions are good and that this world is broken. And some things will continue to be broken up until Jesus comes back. But Father, we accept your will, not ours. Help us to sincerely mean that. In Jesus' name, amen.